Hi, everybody. Welcome to Virtual Hoop Dreams, Episode 2. I'm here with my good friend. He was a EA game changer. He has been a pillar in the NBA Live community for decades. Here with me today is my good friend, SwaggyPLino.
Hey, it's good to be back. I can't believe it's been a month. Let's just say you've been extraordinarily vocal about the state of basketball gaming and basketball overall. And as always, I'm honored to be on this podcast with you. And I'm interested to seeing the community comments upon the state of basketball gaming and how they're enjoying or what elements of dislike they're having right now. But this topic that we have for today is very exciting, and I can't wait to get into it and to discuss it further. And I hope it comes into fruition because this is very important for sure.
Yeah, we had a lot of great commentary, a lot of great interaction with episode 1 when I uploaded it to YouTube. As I stated, this series is only on YouTube. It's not like a official podcast or anything. But please keep those comments coming. I love interacting with you. I tried to get to every single comment on that video. There's a lot going on in the basketball gaming world right now, as we talked about on episode 1. And we have some important items to discuss today. One of them is NBA Live 22, how important it is for them to come to PC. There's a method to this madness. My background that you see behind me, NBA Live 08, that is the last game that Live EA Sports released for the NBA series on PC. And this jersey that I'm wearing is an Allen Iverson Denver Nuggets jersey, because the last time they released a game on PC, Allen Iverson was playing with the Denver Nuggets with Carmelo Anthony, Marcus Camby, Kenyon Martin, Chucky Atkins, etc. So we're going to be touching on that. We're also going to be touching on why roster accuracy is important, why it's important to represent the players the right way, past and present, and how that impacts gameplay as well for consumers. And then at the end, we're just going to touch real quick on who uses sliders, why slider options are important, but why it's not okay for companies to depend on users using those sliders. So first, I want to say, did you play NBA Live 08 on the PC, or were you directly PS3?
I was directly PS3 for the most part. So my experience on PC for NBA Live 08 was very limited. But yeah, I played that game thoroughly in my younger days, for sure. It was one of my favorites because of the aspects of simulation that they introduced into the product. NBA Live 08 was one of those games that I considered to be very technical, although it still had like an arcade feel. When I played with my brother, there was a lot of strategy there, and there was a lot of accuracy upon how the players played. So I remember telling my brother, "Oh, I could leave you open there on that side of the court," because he was cold the past 2 games. Go ahead, shoot it, And he would do the same to me, like, "Oh yeah, he wasn't good that previous night. Yeah, you can go ahead and drive the lane with the right hand. Doesn't matter. I'll give you that all day." So there was a lot of strategy involved in that game, but unfortunately, I did not have the experience of playing that game on PC.
Yeah, so that also goes back to what we had talked about on episode 1, where it's a myth that EA Sports, with their handling of the NBA Live series, that they've always tried to go arcade. That it's a more arcade basketball game, because when you play NBA Live 08 on PS3, it feels, I'm going to be honest with you, it feels kind of sluggish. It's not like a super fast-paced game. There isn't any like super high-flying dunks. It's not like it's not an arcade direction that they went in. You can tell that the pace is tailored towards simulation. And then, as we know, on NBA Live 09, the next year they went to dynamic DNA, and they had all of that DNA stuff. So I'll say again, there's a lot of myths out there about NBA Live always trying to be arcade, but they've been, or the more arcade centered game, they, for over a decade, as you know, they've been going for sim.
Yes, they have. Even though it has been relatively unsuccessful, that doesn't mean that was not part of their objective. And we did talk a lot about that in episode 1. But with the way things are going right now, it seems like they're committing to that. at least from the surface, superficially looking at it in that magnitude, especially with the moves that they've made with their personnel. So, yeah, it sounds like that. It's still the objective.
Yeah.
Hopefully this time around it'll be successful.
Absolutely. That's fingers crossed. I think the other point that I wanted to make about PC, so I did play NBA Live 08 PC, and it was basically just, it's a rush job. If we're going to be completely honest, it was the last time they released on PC. They had already released for a couple years at that point on PS3 and Xbox 360. It had a ton of roster issues, which we're going to get into in a minute, as far as like some copy and paste, players not playing the way that they should, etc. But what I want to talk about is the importance of bringing live to PC for Live 22 when it gets released, because we think it will, like, no matter what.
Yes.
I want people to go on YouTube and just type in the Google search NBA 2K20 bubble mod. Just that. That mod, the gameplay videos that are uploaded, 500,000, 600,000, 800,000 views. Do you know how many people are looking at this stuff? And what does that do? Even though you can't do that on the console, what does it do? It gets the name of the company in people's heads. It gets the game in general in people's heads. They see aspects of the gameplay. It makes them think about the game, and it makes them want to play the game. And we've talked about how Live is so sorely missing good marketing and really putting Live in people's minds and stuff. Have you done that? Have you gone on YouTube and actually typed out like NBA 2K20 mods, or when 2K19 was recent, NBA 19 mods? Have you looked at the views? It's nuts.
Absolutely. And it's been like that for quite some time. As a matter of fact, I think as a result of 2K going that PC route, it added significant value upon the simulation interpretation of the game. Matter of fact, it allowed Mike Wang to have a different form of interaction, the developers to have a different form of interaction with their gamers on a serious level, not just on the state of how the game plays, but also on how the state, to describe the state of how the game is developed, to add more vision, more imagination to what they can do to the installment for years to come. So NBA Live not having that is a void in developmental progression, because you don't have true community interaction with visual interpretation that stems from the imagination of creators, presenting items of the game that can possibly exist in the future. So PC domain is, to me, it's like a portal into what you can do with your game. Is having that accessibility as a developer or even as a producer to extract items from the thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of interpretation that comes from that realm that you can use to possibly develop your next installment for the next 5 or 10 years. So yeah, going to PC is just so important, and it's a shame that it's been almost over 13 years since NBA Live has been in that domain. And you can see that void of imagination not quite being there.
Right, exactly. And they've already taken a lot of ideas from the PC community, right? They've taken ideas from the Ultimate Base roster, the URB as well, where they've added a lot of the classic teams that were in those mods. I released a 2K17 Ultimate classic teams roster that had like the 10-11 Bulls in it and a bunch of teams that they ended up adding in 2K18. And I'm not saying I was the cause, right? I'm not the first person to ever do that, but I received all of these messages over on the NLSC of people saying, oh, thank you. Hey, can you mention this team? So they put it in. The bottom line is that so much, the PC modding community is so creative. They are incredibly creative, and they come up with all of these ideas between splash screens, menu stuff, all of that stuff. And the developers see it. I mean, we've had people plucked right from that modding community to go work for 2K. They've had Vlad, who created Red MC. They've had Zhao Sming, John, who works over there now as well. They've had Razor, who makes cyber faces and all of that stuff. And what did those guys do? They promoted the game before they got hired. They were creative. They promoted the game. They were uploading videos. They got people talking about it. They got people thinking about it. So it is so important that for people to recognize, and I think you would agree, it's not about PC sales. It's about increased exposure.
Exactly. And not just increasing the exposure, but adding a more solemn, a more serious side of the community that can actually influence the game in multiple ways. So adding PC just takes that notch, that step that makes the game official, where you have a variance there and multiple interpretations to add a brand new dynamic to the community, where you have this arcade side of the community that presents feedback in that element. Then you have the intermediate, you have the balance in between arcade and sim. And then when you go to PC, you'll see how those who take the game of basketball very seriously, how they interpret it there. So you just have this variance of community interaction that adds a brand new dynamic to your game. And that's what NBA Live is truly, truly missing. And it is my hope that they do come to PC because of what you've mentioned, people that you can literally extract from that environment to help create the game. And with the way the future is going in now, there's a possibility that we might even have tools in the years to come to create our own version of the game. And that'll be even more of a resource for basketball gaming in the future. Who knows? But yeah, it has to start in PC. NBA Live has to be there.
Yeah, and you know that they already have the framework in place, right? So they already moved Madden to PC. FIFA's on PC. They have the Origin app and all of that stuff. I have Madden EA on PC installed, Madden 18, Madden 19, and Madden 20. They're all installed on my PC. So they also have the framework, and they have shown the willingness to push out their most popular titles on PC. So in my opinion, I have to be honest with you, there's no excuse. I don't see why they wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I think it's just an additional source of detail that would just add value to their game. It wouldn't hurt the product in any way, in my opinion. I think it would just add to it. It is my hope that they consider it. I mean, why not?
Some people still look at PC gaming and they're like, "Oh, you play with a mouse and keyboard." People, this isn't the year 2000. We had game pads back then too. But I use an Xbox One wireless controller and sit on the couch with my brother and we play. Right? You can use Xbox controllers. You can use, other generic game pads or whatever. People are playing games on PC like they're playing it on console.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's multiple ways in which you can have your experience on PC. It doesn't necessarily mean that you just have to be on the keyboard 100% of the time. Yeah.
Yeah. One of these days, I'm going to upload a video with video showing my setup. I'm going to be like, here's my TV that I play on. Here's the controllers that I use. Here's how I play. Here's how I record my gameplay videos, all of that stuff. Way more flexibility and higher quality than what you get on console. As you know, for a while, Xbox One was only allowing you to do like 720p. Maybe it's still that way. Like you couldn't even do 1080p. So stuff like that. And, the other point that I wanted to make too with PC gaming is if they don't come out on PC and they come out on console, all of that customization that you can do on PC, all of that showing off, all of the mods you can create using programs like Blender, with using Adobe Photoshop, all of that stuff, all of that creativity is thrown out the window because you can't do it on console. And one of my biggest things, and you could agree, there's a game called AO International Tennis. And what this does is it has a cross-platform sharing system, including if you make a cyberface on PC, like if I make Pete Sampras on PC, I can share that and somebody on Xbox One and PS4 can download it. How cool is that? Like that should be the future of gaming, right? Cross-platform sharing of team floors, possibly, sharing of cyberfaces, sharing of stuff like that. You can mingle as long as you can get past the, any copyright stuff. But you can, AO International Tennis did it with, we can do it with that. That possibly could be the future of gaming.
That's exactly what I was, talking about. Is giving the gamers the tools to potentially develop their own customizable experiences. And that is definitely a true and definitive possibility. You've already described it with AO tennis. And all you have to do is just establish a criteria of rules, regulations to prevent any copyright infringements, like you've mentioned. And there it is. You'll have, players having these dynamic expressions upon how they choose to play their game. And then you'll have instantaneous feedback to know, as a developer and a producer, where to take your ideas for the next installment, or for the plans for the next 5 or 10 years. So it's more now considering adding a blend between gamer and developer. I think now that your gamers, with the tools that we can develop in the close and immediate future, will be more than just gamers. There will be active developers alongside with these producers and with these team mates to construct their video gaming experiences. So that is why the first step for NBA Live is to go into that PC realm, so you can introduce that platform unto them and potentially be the first to offer them direct tools to customize their game in a manner in which it will be truly dynamic.
Right. Exactly. Think of the opportunity.
My God.
And by default, we're entering, when it comes out, we're going to be entering, 2021. It's going to be, the current product in 2022. Because like I said, we think it's going to be released. How do we not have an offline court creator at this point? Right. You should, NBA 2K doesn't even have that. You have to be in my league to create your court. Right. So why do we not have something like that where people can customize more? And, maybe they want to just play with those teams and their customizations in Play Now. Maybe they want to throw it online and play it with other people and stuff like that. Why are we not at that point? Andrew and I talked about this on the NLSC podcast at some point. There is no way that we're even close to exhausting all of our options in basketball.
No, not at all. Oh, not at all. I mean, you can even talk about customizing your own environment. Like, you have players with 2K complain about their park. The park is the same, blah, blah, blah. Well, give them tools to customize their park experience. And, shout out to NBA Live for giving us little options for our court battles, but that is just, the initiation of what possibly can be in the years to come, by offering even more items of customization. And I think 2K is even more prepared to do that for their gamers, because they already have my court. But just imagine if they give gamers the ability to design and create their own communities. I mean, there you are. That's the first step.
Imagine the exposure. Imagine the amount of videos that would be uploaded for that. And you'd have those YouTubers like Ancient 00, which I'm going to talk about in a second. He'd have his mouth wide open on his thumbnail, and it'd be like, "Look at this court," or something like that, and like it will get 900,000 views. He uploaded a video saying, "Oh, the bubble is now in NBA 2K21, right?" And it's a mod, a PC mod, and I just looked, and it has about 350,000 views.
Yes,
based on a mod.
Yeah. Dom 2K actually used that mod today to play his sim games. So I witnessed it on Twitch. Yeah, so there it is.
Dom 2K is the same guy who's like, you know what? I'm going to use Goku and Vegeta, and I'm going to upload a video because there were mods made out of them, and they're going to go against Spider-Man and Batman, and those mods get hundreds of thousands of impressions and views, and people are tuning into those streams and whatnot.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah. So that's the imaginative side of basketball gaming, which is okay, but we also need that authentication, and that's where you've mentioned the roster accuracy and why that needs to be, why that is very important. I know that was one of your topics. I don't know if you were ready to go into it.
Oh yeah, but I thought that was a perfect segue. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So, but go ahead, talk about it, because you had a profound thread that even inspired me. I was like, wow.
Hey, I got 2K's attention. They went in and they're starting to update stuff. And sometimes, my language in the thread could have been considered harsh, or like maybe an approach that seemed kind of aggressive. But what people need to realize is I've been giving feedback for years.
Right.
I've been giving long threads of feedback on the NLSC. I've been channeling that feedback through those types of channels instead of making it public and getting that aggressive. Nothing's been done. I talked about it. 5+ years of this type of stuff going on. NBA 2K21 might be the worst I've ever seen of it. But this has been going on, and it's not just NBA 2K either. NBA EA Sports is guilty of this. NBA Live 19 had months where you couldn't even dunk with Clyde Drexler or Dominique Wilkins in Ultimate Team, and they had to do like this giant patch that allowed you to dunk with players who were super dunkers, like in their day. So I want people to realize, and we've talked about this, the whole point is making memories with basketball video games and them representing the players, etc., in teams properly. I don't care who makes it. I don't care who makes the game. It needs to be done right. And when that happened on NBA Live 19, I called it out on Twitter. I mentioned it. And what ended up happening was, it wasn't because of me. Other people were talking about it too. They ended up putting a patch through. So the point is people listening to this, make yourself heard. Like, bring this stuff up. The people that I tagged, which are Baluba, so Mike Wang, Dazar, and Mike Stoffer, and the main 2K account, those are the people we're given on social media. Who else am I going to tag? Right? So it's not even me directly blaming it on them. The point is, hey, these guys are the people that are talking to people every day on social media. These people might be able to take my complaint, my information, and give it to the right people. So people need to realize, like, those are the people that I was given.
Right. Absolutely. And you used it wisely. And I just want to say, once again, I genuinely appreciate the developers and producers for, first of all, availing themselves to criticism throughout the years, as harsh as it may be, and for them to develop this game during this, crazy time. If anything, I hope that they may be able to hire more personnel to help them with this process, because it does require a lot of detail. It does require a lot of study. And, Mike Wang and his team could only do so much. However, it's still vital that these players who are historical, who are iconic,
it's disrespectful.
Accurately.
Yeah, it's disrespectful. It's, it's not only disrespectful to the past and present players, with that misrepresenting with the copy and paste, with Glenn Rice at a 0-3 shot tendency and Rick Smits at a 50, but it's also it's disrespectful to the players and their legacies, but also their families. A guy like Dino Raja, guys like Dino and other players who have kids, right, who play these games, and they're like, I want to use my dad, or blah blah blah, and they want to like throw on, and they're like, yo, I'm playing against you, and you're popping threes. I don't remember you shooting threes. It's just, it's completely, it's disrespectful, but it also, as we talked about before, it impacts gameplay in a big way. These are tendencies, meaning if you have Carlos Boozer at a 0 on post up, what is he going to do? Is he going to post up?
No, not at all.
He's not going to post up.
Take some shot on the elbow, I guess. That's about it.
Yeah, exactly. So the point is it's very important, not just for the respect of the past and present players, and for accuracy and whatnot, but it dramatically impacts the way they play on the floor. And you've seen all the complaints about gameplay a lot of times, about how players are moving sluggishly, how they have no first step. Andrew and I played an online game. Andrew from the NLSC, for those who don't know, we played an online game, and I straight up locked him up with Bob Cousy on Derrick Rose. Bob Cousy is an A+ on perimeter defense in the game. Derrick Rose had no acceleration whatsoever when Andrew was using him, and he couldn't do anything with him. That completely ruins the experience.
Right. But it's also very difficult to make those interpretations between past greats and present greats and have them compete on the floor. Once again, it requires profound imagination, but there still should be some advantage, one versus the other. And having the accuracy of player representation will help to point out what these players during those particular times, where the advantage lie. It could be just an IQ for Cousy, and then for Derrick Rose, it would be his athleticism. But you have to find a way to develop that.
And the game mechanics have to support it as well. The game mechanics by default have to support, if Derrick Rose has a 95 on acceleration, that you can actually accelerate with it. Like
Yeah,
it has to be that way.
yeah, that you can actually see it. We all know that 2K is fully capable of making this happen. It's just a matter of just putting the time and the determination to commit to developing that sort of game. And to just, like you said, you've mentioned it. This has been happening for over 5, 6, 7 years with the brand that you've pointed out, and they've still been relatively successful. So it's just more of a conscious effort on their part
Priorities.
to whether or not they're going to do this, and if they do, can you imagine the amount of value that it would add to the game, and the amount of strategy that would be required to play that game, at least in one particular environment of competition. Doesn't have to be throughout, but at least in one environment to where the game would have profound meaning. But yeah, it was something that I would like to see. But at this point, I think it's just more so an opportunity of choice for them because their brand is so reliable.
It's low priority. It's low priority, and they don't have a competitor. And I was the first person, and again, this isn't tooting my own horn, I'm the first person to lay it out. And what ended up happening when I laid it out, a bunch of silent patches go through, right?
Yeah.
To try to fix exactly what I put in the screenshots.
Right.
So you know that what it does is it takes a voice, and sometimes it takes an uprising. Sometimes it takes that post on Reddit that gets thousands of views. Sometimes it takes the tweet on Twitter that gets 1,000 shares. Or 3,000 or 4,000 likes or something like that. I think it's a little discouraging that they do it as silent and they don't acknowledge the issue, and they still, like, 99.9% of the issues are still in the game. But there's certain aspects of the laziness and the not making it a priority that just really grind my gears. Peter Griffin used to say it. The whole Dan Issel is a complete copy and paste job of Kevin Love right down to the nickname. For, in his signatures and tendencies. You go on 2K My Team Central, nickname for Dan Issel is K Love. Dan Issel has a 93-point tendency. He never shot him. So there's so many different things that it impacts. And like I said, they need NBA Live, and you mentioned this when we had talked about it, NBA Live needs to make accuracy. And I want you to get into that. You're very much an accurate guy, like accuracy-based gamer. It needs to appeal to the casual gamers in gameplay, like pick up and play, and it can, but it also needs to appeal to those who want a more accurate experience.
Exactly. And this is where, as we talk about NBA Live has, in my opinion, has succeeded in developing an onboarding fun experience where new gamers, in the words of Sean Grady, from 12 to 65 can come in and play. They've developed an environment for that. They've proven that in NBA Live 18. They've proven that in NBA Live 19. What is missing is what you've just stated, that accuracy, that simulation concept that proves that we have the capacity of developing this style of a basketball game. If NBA Live was to commit to that side, because they've already nailed the fun factor, in my opinion. They just need to add more to it, make online connectivity a little bit more expansive. Consider going, like you said, into the cross-platform, put PC in there, and then boom, you got a great onboarding experience there already with the one.
Promote it. Get people out there that are going to represent it right. Preview season. Preview season. I don't care. Contact me. I'll do it for free. I'll put gameplay videos out. Give it to me. I'll put matchups out there. I'll do highlights. Don't pay me a cent. I'll do it. Let me promote your game.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And that's what I love about the NBA Live community. We have individuals, like yourself and many others, and myself, who loves the game, that they will promote the game freely, but they need something to promote. They need something of value to promote to their consumers that will draw them in. But with that onboarding experience that they've nailed with the fun factor into one, and just adding more to it, you got that sealed. Now let's, like you said, let's focus on developing accurate rosters, developing accurate play styles, developing accurate signature, developing, that personality that has been kind of missing from these iconic legendary players and even the present players, that shows true imitation of life in their art representation.
It needs life. It needs so much life. The series needs life.
It needs to be robust, not just from the gameplay, but from, the outside experiences, what it means to be a basketball player and have the gamer feel connected to the product on an intimate level. And yeah, that does require a life. Now, and I don't know if EA is capable of doing that because they've tried, developing some type of life in Madden, and I'm not quite impressed with that. Sorry to say that, developers, but it just doesn't work out. Like their long shot and face of the franchise, not good. 2K just nails it with the my career aspect. But I still believe that NBA Live.
They don't. I need to point something out. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but 2K doesn't necessarily nail it with the my career side. What they do is they promote the hell out of it.
They do.
That's what Live doesn't do as good of a job as promoting themselves.
Yeah, they don't. And we talked about some of the reasons as to why that is. But the reason why I said they kind of nailed it with the my career is because I remember my brother calling me, and he was playing at the University of Texas during the time. And he said, "Yo, did you play my career?" I'm like, no, I had no idea what it was. He said, "Man, you legitimately feel like an NBA player." And that's what
I used to touch on it. I used to touch on it a little bit, like NBA 2K14 for like Xbox One and stuff. I dabbled in it. Like I did that. But I think that, how do I explain this? There is nobody competing with them with that.
That's exactly right. Yes.
Nobody.
Yes.
They're the only ones that got that in the basketball gaming space. That's it.
Right. So. And this is what I was getting ready to say. I was getting ready to say that NBA Live, with their impact with the one, still shows that they have innovation, that they have imagination there that can be even more profound than what we see now, that they can redefine in their basketball gaming experience. But what they need to do is just continue to focus on establishing simulation. And then you can really make some brand new experiences with the one, which that will just transcend time. You don't have to stay within the narrative of time anymore. You can, if you want to trigger imagination, you can develop the one to where you have players going into a mental state of consciousness, dreaming about, like you did, talking about these legendary players, and then dreaming about what it's like to play these legendary players one-on-one and developing skills from them and applying that to your player. Can you imagine that? And they hit it on that with NBA Live 19 with that first matchup when you had that mentorship where you played against Allen Iverson, Shaquille O'Neal, and Vince Carter. I thought that was a great concept where you was on the black court and you was kind of envisioning what type of player you would like to be based upon these legends that are on the court. Well, imagine the one experience you're developing as a player and you're imagining what it would be like to play one-on-one against Magic Johnson. Yeah. Or to play in a iconic playoff game against Larry Bird, and you're the point guard who's supposed to be emulating Magic Johnson based upon your play style.
I think that would be cool. See, and that's the thing. There's so many things that haven't been done. There's so many things that haven't been done, and they need people who love the game to be involved in this process. And I mean love the game. I mean really know about the game, really love the game. And I think that there's, like I said, there's just so much untapped potential, basically.
Yes. Yeah, it is. But like you said, it all stems from making sure you have that accuracy in these players. And what you stated really brought that to light. And I don't care if it's 2K or NBA Live. I just really hope that, or both, I really hope that they commit to what was mentioned in that thread, because it's so vital now, especially now.
People don't realize that, making a thread like that, first off, isn't easy, number one. Number two, I don't want to. I don't want to spend all my time doing that. I don't want to get upset about these things. I don't want to go through the rosters and be like, what the heck is this? Nobody wants that. Like, I don't want, it's just like gameplay issues. Nobody goes in and plays a game and be like, man, I'm going to look for every issue. And you know what? I'm going to go online and I'm going to complain about this. And you know what? Even though it doesn't bother me that much, well, F 2K. And I'm going to go on there and like, no, if the game is good and the game plays well and the players are represented properly, what happens? You get those positive reviews, right? You get those higher reviews like you did with 2K14, 2K15, 2K14, 13, 12, 11. You get that reception. So that's the point, right?
Right. And NBA Live could definitely benefit from that. So if any team should have an incentive to consider the threat that was made to 2K, EA Sports may want to look at that as well.
I agree.
But I know it's a lot of work, but it can be done. And if they get it done, I'll just be even that much more grateful for them considering it. Because we know, like you said, they don't really have to. But for the benefit of the gamer and for the benefit of the, reestablishing a reputation within themselves, it could just add so much value all across the board if they truly consider getting this done. I know it's a lot of work. I know it's a daunting task.
Yeah.
But anything's possible. Anything's possible.
Perfect. So what I'm going to do, last topic of today's show, we're going to switch gears and we're going to talk about sliders. So who uses them? Why they shouldn't be something that people depend on, and why the game needs to be strong by default. So first, I want to get your take on, do you use them? How often do you use them? And what do you tweak?
Now, I don't use them. And because I truly believe in the original vision of the artist. And I believe that however the game was released out of the box, that was the way the game was intended to be played. So I try to adjust my gameplay experiences based upon the default presentation that is relative to the vision of the developers and producers who created this product for me. And that's because we grew up in that culture. We grew up experiencing our video games without having the options of changing the format of how the game is played. Yeah, they may have existed, but it wasn't nowhere as profound as it is now. But I understand why people use sliders, especially UD and the Live King and many others, because I could see the changes in the gameplay. But to me, most people want to see how these developers and producers intended, how they want the game to be played. They go with that original vision first.
Well, they intended Dan Issel to play exactly like Kevin Love. But anyway, no. So your point is helps me make my point. So I would say 99.9% of gamers do not mess with sliders. What gamers do is they go in, they choose a difficulty level, and they jump in the game.
Right.
Whether it's in my league, whether it's in Play Now or whatnot. Also, not all modes support slider tweaks. So you have my team doesn't support slider tweaks. Ultimate Team didn't for live. You have obviously Park, stuff like that. Like there's modes, playing online. There's modes that we can't mess with sliders. So you can't. One of the problems is in the community, and I've seen this many times on Operation Sports, people stop complaining. Some of this stuff you can alleviate using sliders. The game needs to be strong by default.
Yes. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Just flat out.
People shouldn't have to go in and spend hours testing sliders to get a better basketball gaming experience.
Right. The community is so large, and it's so huge, just so huge. It's impossible to please everyone. But this is why, like you've mentioned, this is why you have different gaming environments for people to choose a level at which they're going to have their experience and enjoy it thoroughly. So I will say that with what 2K has done in developing different gaming environments for their gamers, I am extraordinarily impressed. I will give credit to the producers and developers there.
Those options should exist. Should exist, right?
Exactly. But what you want is a profound, outstanding default gaming experience, which is easier said than done, that can transcend all game modes. And there's been times where 2K has nailed that. I mean, they've absolutely crushed it. We just haven't seen that from them with these recent installments as of late. So we know that the capacity for them to do that is there. But you're absolutely right, and I sound like I'm being repetitive, but to me, your default experience is what you experience as soon as you turn on that PlayStation or whatever platform you're using to play the game. That is what defines your game, almost for the year, literally. And
again,
like
though, it impacts all modes too. Remember, yeah. Like I said, what ends up happening is, what are some of the most popular parts of NBA 2K? My team, heavily promoted, and playing online, right?
Yes.
Those are, and you can't adjust it. You can't. No. So again, it's like you and like you said, it's just so important to have it so you can pick up the controller and by default have a good time. That's why those first impressions are so important. We talk about NBA Live having poor demos in the past where it wasn't received that well because you picked up the controller and the animations were a little bit wonky. I don't know if anybody says wonky anymore, but they were. The animations were a little bit wonky, robotic. Players weren't doing their first step appropriately. You couldn't burst off of your dribble. So acceleration and stuff like that. That has hurt NBA Live in the past. So it has to be strong on release day, or if you're going to release a demo, it has to be strong by default.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to have a concept that you're going to commit to and just release the game there, and you want to try to eliminate bugs, but it's just, I don't know. It seemed like as we grow higher into these next gen platforms, it becomes more difficult to make a game that is solid upon release. It becomes more challenging, and I think that's because.
And then they patch, and then they patch again, and then they have 8 patches in 2 months.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I think the greatest challenge right now, if I was a developer, is to create a system in which that won't be necessary. And even though it sounds idealistic, that would be my objective, is to really try to nail it in the first impression. That imagine you just playing the demo and it's just 100% positive all across the board. But it is, like I said, it is difficult. I acknowledge that. I'm not saying that this is something that is easy, but what we're saying is that the default experience is very important, more so than having slider options.
It's far more important. I mean, you could take, that's the point, is if you took slider options out of the game, 99% of people who didn't mess with them are not impacted.
Right.
That's the point. Like, that's the amount of people that are not messing with sliders. To give you an example of that, NBA 2K20, Operation Sports, you would say that's probably the most popular forum, right? Platform. Second, maybe NLSC for talk, for like game talk and sliders and stuff like that. There were only like 6 or 7 threads about sliders, an entire cycle of the game on Operation Sports. What does that tell you?
Yeah. It tell you that community is probably the least of all, and then actually, not probably, it is. And then it just tells you that gamers just want to have a good experience upon rip. As soon as they open it up, they want that experience to be solid. So yeah, we know that is the premise. We know that is the goal. We know that is the idea that these developers and producers want to give to their gamers. But we also understand how challenging that may be, because the gaming community is so large now. We're talking about millions of players.
8 million, over 8 million people downloaded NBA 2K20.
Yes. And to be able to nail an art of gameplay that appeases to most is pure genius. I will say that. It's just nothing short of 100% awesome ingenuity on their part. But yeah, that's the idea. That's what you want to gravitate. That's what you want to develop for your gamers. But like I said, it's easier said than done now. It is challenging. One
last thing I want to point out before we close the show about Operation Sports. So again, this is an incredibly, probably the most popular forum to talk about basketball. If you go into the screen, and this is circling back to mods and being on PC, if you go into that screenshots and videos section on Operation Sports, about 99% of the videos are PC.
Right. Yeah.
What does that tell
you? What it tells me is that NBA Live needs to go on PC.
Yeah, exactly. So Dan, this was great. We'll try to put out another episode next week. We definitely want more of those comments. We had a bunch of them on the last show. We want to get these shows out there. So please share the show as well, because I think we're touching on a lot of items in a different way than a lot of people are, or they're not touching on them at all. Is there any last thoughts on the 3 topics we discussed today?
You know what? I've said what I've needed to say. The one thing that I do want to say, considering the times that we're in right now, I'm just grateful for these experiences. I'm grateful to these companies for producing these games for us throughout the years, even though some of them may have been failures. I am grateful for the producers and developers and even the executives for putting these outstanding memories out here for us to enjoy and to discuss. And I value every moment. So most importantly, thank you for having this platform and giving us the community an opportunity to discuss what matters to us. And hopefully these developers and producers will continue along that path to consider the community when they design their games and their titles for future installments. So I just want to express my gratitude in that manner, for sure.
Public service announcement. I love what you said here. Public service announcement. I need people watching this to understand something. During these times, do not lose your creativity. Do not lose your mind, and continue to pursue your passions, and truly, search out those escapes as well, something that brings you joy. Spend time with your family, play games with your family, go camping, do stuff that makes you happy. You know what I'm doing tomorrow? I'm going camping. You know what? I'm like, what? I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to go camping, old school camping. We're going to play board games. We're going to, cook over a fire, all of that stuff. I'm not going to kill my own food. I'm not going to go that far. But the point is, people during these times, these are incredibly tough times with everything going on, constant negativity as well. And all of these things that are going on, do not lose yourself.
Right.
It's very important to not lose yourself and keep things into perspective and keep your priorities straight and still pursue those avenues of enjoyment. And, by you doing that, you also make a difference in other people's lives. You know what? I could totally stop doing these episodes. I could totally stop doing the Holding Court podcast. I could totally stop doing the NLSC podcast and lay in bed and sulk. But I am telling you right now, it is not worth it. Right.
Absolutely right, D. Well said. That PSA is absolutely solid. Gratitude, enjoy your creativity.
That's what you're so good at. Also show appreciation. My thread was rough, right? My thread about the roster stuff is rough. I felt like I had to do it, but I also need people to understand that I also show my appreciation when things are done right. And there is positive commentary. And I have over 300 videos on my YouTube channel, on this channel, and over 90% of them are NBA 2K.
Yeah.
NBA 2K gameplay, NBA 2K with my 2 brothers. We're playing the games. We're having fun. I'm like, oh man, I want to show this highlight. Here's a quick clip, everybody. Take a look at this. So it's not all negative, but it's okay to make your voice heard. And if something is bothering you, speak up.
Absolutely. Well said, D. Well said.
All right, that's my rant. That's my rant for the day. That's all I got. So is there any thing that you want to promote, anything that you're working on, any social media, anything?
At the current moment, I do plan on streaming some more retro games, but not too far. Not too far in the past. More so like exploring outstanding concepts, which I like to do, from games that are interpreted as failures. Just because an installment was viewed as a failure doesn't mean that there aren't concepts that were put in place that can grow into success into the future, or that can be meshed, that can be extracted and placed into consideration for future installments. So I believe that there is positives in every installment of past basketball gaming titles that can help to develop an outstanding game now or even into the future. So I'll be exploring positive aspects of NBA Live titles that can possibly do well in the future. So that's what I
Absolutely.
plan to do.
I think it's a great idea, and I posted like a Live 99 intro video recently on Twitter showing like the real NBA highlights to the cool music and stuff like that. Some of the old ideas, and you could have an option where it gets shut off if you have it like showing up originally, something in the options that says shut off intro video. But some old ideas were awesome. And some old ideas can be brought back or reimagined and whatnot. We talked about things like the all-decade teams, which Live used to have. So definitely get those lists together, people, and seek out wish lists. Tag EA Sports, tag the developers. I don't care. Maybe he loves it. Tag Scott O'Gallagher. I have no idea. But get those ideas out there because you are creative and you know what you want. Absolutely.
Well said, D. It's been an honor, man. Thank you so much for having me on this platform. Like I said, I don't take it for granted. And I look forward to doing the next one, man. This has been great. And for those of you who are viewing this, please leave your comments because we want to know what you guys are saying. I mean, we talk all the time, but we want to hear from you guys. You know, whether you agree or disagree with our perspectives, it's all important. So please don't feel
don't be shy. Yeah, don't be shy. For me, you guys can follow me on Twitter at D4Free84. Obviously, sub to the YouTube channel. If you want, I upload gameplay, podcasts, all of that stuff. Maybe I'll get back into streaming. Who knows? I haven't done that in a while. You can follow me over on the NLSC, D for Free. I'm a contributor over there. And please listen to the NLSC podcast, which comes out every Sunday. Andrew and I co-host that one. And that's something I really enjoy doing. And we talk about all aspects of basketball gaming.
Nice. Yes, absolutely.
Perfect.
I am there.
Swaggy, thank you again for coming on. And people, thank you for listening. Definitely leave your comments and tune in to episode 3, which hopefully we will release next week.
Absolutely. Till next time, you guys. Peace.